The Wyoming wind cut through Eleanor's thin dress like 1,000 knives as she stumbled down the muddy main street of Redemption Creek. Her left eye was swollen shut, purple and tender, a parting gift from the man who'd called himself her husband for 3 agonizing months. In her trembling hand, she clutched a silver locket, the only thing of value she owned, the only piece of her mother she had left. The general store's lantern light spilled onto the boardwalk, promising warmth she couldn't afford. Eleanor's stomach cramped with hunger. She hadn't eaten in 2 days, not since she'd finally found the courage to run. Her fingers traced the locket's engraved surface. "Mama, forgive me." Before we continue with Eleanor's journey, I'd love to ask you to take a moment to subscribe to the From Wild West channel and give this video a like. Your support truly matters and motivates us to bring you more quality stories like this one. Where are you listening from today? I'd love to know in the comments below. The bell above the door chimed as she entered. Mr. Henderson looked up from his ledger, his expression shifting from curiosity to pity. Eleanor hated that look. "I need food," she said, her voice barely audible. "I can trade this." She placed the locket on the counter, her hand shaking so badly the silver clinked against the wood. Henderson's weathered face softened. "Mrs. Blackwood, I can't." "It's not Mrs. Blackwood anymore." Eleanor's voice cracked. "Just Eleanor, please. It's real silver, my mother's." The door opened behind her, bringing a gust of cold air and the scent of leather and sage. Heavy boots crossed the wooden floor. "Henderson, I need supplies for the northern fence line." The voice was deep, steady, like distant thunder, and "Put whatever the lady needs on my account." Eleanor spun around, nearly losing her balance. The man who stood there had to be 6.5 feet tall, with shoulders that seemed to fill the doorway. His dark hair was longer than fashionable, touching his collar, and his eyes, gray as storm clouds, held an intensity that made her breath catch. A scar ran from his left eyebrow to his cheekbone, giving him a dangerous edge that should have frightened her. It didn't. "I don't need charity," Eleanor said, lifting her chin despite the humiliation burning through her. Those gray eyes swept over her face, pausing at her bruised eye, then down to the locket still resting on the counter. Something dangerous flickered across his features, anger, but not directed at her. "Not charity," he said quietly. "Payment. My ranch hand's wife just had a baby. She needs help, and I need someone who can cook for the crew. You look like you need work, and I need reliable help. Seems like a fair trade." "I'm not." Eleanor's protest died as her vision blurred. The room tilted sideways. Strong arms caught her before she hit the floor. She found herself pressed against a chest as solid as oak, breathing in that scent of leather and sage and something else. Safety. When was the last time she'd felt safe? "When did you last eat?" His rumbled through his chest, vibrating against her cheek. Tuesday, I think." Christ. It was barely a whisper. "Henderson, pack food, enough for a week, and add it to my bill." "Mr. Thorne, you sure about this?" Henderson's voice seemed far away. "Never been more sure of anything." Eleanor tried to pull away, but her legs wouldn't support her. "I can't pay you back." "I don't want your mother's locket. And I don't want payment." Thorne adjusted his hold on her, his touch careful, as though she were made of glass. "I want someone to help Sarah with the baby and cook decent meals. Ranch food's been inedible since my cook quit. You'd be doing me a favor. I don't even know you. Name's Caleb Thorne. I run the 3 Rivers Ranch, about an hour's ride north. Been there 10 years, built it up from nothing." He paused, And I don't hit women, if that's what you're wondering. Eleanor's throat tightened. Could she trust him? Did she have a choice? The alternative was crawling back to James, or starving in the street, or worse. Okay, she whispered. Caleb carried her to a chair and draped his coat around her shoulders. It smelled like him and was still warm from his body. He crouched in front of her, bringing those intense gray eyes level with hers. I need to know something first, he said. The man who did this to you, is he coming after you? Eleanor's hand instinctively went to her bruised eye. I don't know. Maybe. James doesn't like losing his possessions. You're not property. Caleb's voice was steel wrapped in velvet. You're a person, and if he comes to my ranch looking for you, he'll answer to me. Understood? Something in Eleanor's chest, something that had been tight and frozen for months, began to crack. This stranger was offering her more respect than her own husband ever had. Understood, she said. Henderson brought over a basket packed with bread, cheese, dried meat, and apples. Caleb took it, then offered Eleanor his hand. She stared at it for a moment, large, calloused, with scars across the knuckles, before placing her smaller hand in his. His fingers closed around hers gently, carefully. Let's get you home, he said. Home. When was the last time anywhere had felt like home? The ride to Three Rivers Ranch was both eternal and too short. Eleanor sat in front of Caleb on his massive bay horse, his arms forming a protective cage around her as he held the reins. She'd never been so close to a man who didn't frighten her. Every time the horse's gait jostled her against his chest, she felt that strange warmth spreading through her. Not desire exactly, but something softer. Trust, maybe, or hope. Tell me about the ranch, she said, needing to fill the silence with something other than her own racing thoughts. Three Rivers sits where three streams converge, Caleb said, his breath warm against her ear. Got about 500 head of cattle, 20 horses, a dozen chickens that think they own the place. Main house has 4 bedrooms. You'll have your own door with a lock. Bunkhouse for the hands is separate, 50 yards from the main house. How many men work for you? 6, plus me. They're good men, Eleanor. I don't tolerate disrespect. Anyone gives you trouble, you tell me. Why are you being so kind to me? The question escaped before she could stop it. You don't know anything about me. Caleb was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough with old pain. 5 years ago, I found my sister bleeding in an alley in Denver. Her husband had beaten her so badly I barely recognized her. She died in my arms before I could get her to a doctor. His arms tightened slightly around Eleanor. I swore I'd never stand by and watch another woman suffer if I could prevent it. So yes, I'm being kind. And no, I don't need to know your whole story. I just need to know you need help, and I can provide it. Eleanor's eyes burned with tears. I'm sorry about your sister. Me too. He cleared his throat. Her name was Rebecca. You remind me of her, that same stubborn tilt to your chin when you're trying not to cry. They crested a hill, and Eleanor gasped. Below them, the ranch spread out in the valley like something from a dream. The main house was 2 stories of solid timber and stone, with a wide porch wrapped around 3 sides. Lamplight glowed in the windows, warm and welcoming. Beyond it, she could see the bunkhouse, barn, and several other outbuildings. And everywhere, the sound of running water from the 3 streams that gave the place its name. It's beautiful, Eleanor breathed. It's home, Caleb said simply. And for now, it's your home too. A woman appeared on the porch as they approached, holding a lantern. She was small and round, with silver-streaked auburn hair and a kind face that reminded Eleanor of her mother. "Caleb Thorne, where have you been? Supper's cold, and oh." The woman's eyes went wide as Caleb helped Eleanor down from the horse. "Oh, you poor dear." "Sarah, this is Eleanor. She's going to be staying with us, helping you with the baby and doing some cooking." Caleb handed the reins to a young ranch hand who'd appeared from the barn. "Eleanor, this is Sarah Bishop. Her husband Marcus is my foreman." Sarah's expression shifted through surprise, understanding, and determination in the span of seconds. "Well, come inside before you freeze. Marcus, get some hot water going for a bath. This girl needs feeding and tending." Before Eleanor knew what was happening, she was swept into the warm house and installed in a chair by the massive stone fireplace. Sarah pressed a cup of hot tea into her hands, while Caleb disappeared upstairs with her meager bundle of possessions. "Don't you worry about a thing," Sarah said, studying Eleanor's bruised face with a clinical eye. "We'll get you sorted. That eye needs a cold compress first, then we'll move to warm. Can you see out of it at all?" "A little," Eleanor admitted. "It's better than it was yesterday." "Yesterday? Good Lord, child! You've been traveling for days in this condition?" Sarah's voice rose with indignation. "Men like that should be—" She stopped herself, taking a deep breath. "Well, you're safe now. Caleb won't let anyone hurt you here, and neither will Marcus or the other hands. They're good boys, all of them." Caleb returned with clean clothes, men's clothes, but they'd be warm. "Bath's ready upstairs. First door on the right. There's a lock on the inside. Take your time." Eleanor clutched the clothes to her chest. "Thank you, both of you. I don't know how I'll ever repay." "Stop," Caleb said gently. "You'll repay us by getting healthy and safe. That's all I want." The bath was heaven. Eleanor sank into the hot water and felt 3 months of fear and pain begin to dissolve. She scrubbed her skin until it was pink and clean, washed her hair 3 times, and let herself cry for the first time since she'd fled. When she finally emerged, dressed in Caleb's oversized flannel shirt and pants rolled up at the ankles, she felt almost human again. Sarah had laid out a feast in the kitchen: stew, fresh bread, butter, apple pie. Eleanor's stomach cramped at the sight of so much food. "Eat slowly," Sarah warned. "Your stomach's not used to it. Small bites." Eleanor forced herself to follow the advice, though she wanted to devour everything in sight. Caleb sat across from her, nursing a cup of coffee, his eyes never leaving her face. "Tell me about James," he said quietly. "I need to know what we're dealing with." Eleanor's spoon clattered against her bowl. "He's a clerk at the railroad office in Cheyenne. We married 3 months ago. He seemed kind at first, but after the wedding—" She swallowed hard. "He changed. Said I was his property, his to do with as he pleased. The first time he hit me, he apologized, said it would never happen again. But it did. Again and again." "Did you try to leave before?" "Once. He found me at the train station and dragged me back. That's when he gave me this." She pointed to a faint scar on her collarbone that peeked out from the shirt's collar. "Said if I tried to leave again, he'd kill me." Caleb's knuckles whitened around his coffee cup. "He won't touch you again. I promise you that. He knows people, railroad men, lawmen. He could say I'm his wife, and they'd make me go back." Let him try. There was something fierce and protective in Caleb's voice. "This is Wyoming territory, not some city back east. Out here, a man's word means something, and mine means more than most. No one's taking you anywhere you don't want to go." Eleanor wanted to believe him. God, how she wanted to believe him. Sarah showed her to her room later that night. A beautiful space, with a large bed covered in a colorful quilt, a dresser with an oval mirror, and windows overlooking the valley. A fire crackled in a small fireplace, warming the room. "There's the lock," Sarah said, pointing to the heavy bolt on the door. "And if you need anything in the night, Caleb's room is across the hall. He's a light sleeper. Just knock. I don't want to be a burden." "Honey, you're not a burden. You're a blessing. I've been begging Caleb to hire help for months, but he's stubborn as a mule. Now I've got someone to share the work with, and maybe even some girl talk." Sarah patted Eleanor's hand. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow we'll start fresh." But sleep didn't come easily. Every creak of the house settling made Eleanor's heart race. Every shadow in the corner could be James coming to drag her back. She lay in the darkness, trembling, until a soft knock on the door made her jump. "Eleanor, it's Caleb. You all right?" She considered lying, but something about his voice, that steady, calm presence, made honesty easier. "I can't sleep. Every sound—" "I understand. May I come in?" Eleanor hesitated, then slid out of bed and unlocked the door. Caleb stood in the hallway, holding a rifle. "I'll sleep in the chair in the hallway tonight," he said, "just until you feel safer. And I've got this if anyone tries to come up those stairs who shouldn't." "You don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to." He met her eyes. "You're not alone anymore, Eleanor. That's going to take some getting used to, I know. But you're not alone." Something broke loose in Eleanor's chest. She nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. Caleb settled into the chair outside her door, the rifle across his lap. "Leave your door open a crack if it helps. I'll be right here." Eleanor crawled back into bed, and for the first time in months, felt safe enough to close her eyes. She woke to the smell of coffee and frying bacon. Sunlight streamed through the windows, painting everything gold. For a confused moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The ranch. Caleb. Safety. Eleanor dressed quickly in a simple dress Sarah had left folded on the chair. It was a little big, but serviceable, and headed downstairs. The kitchen was a hive of activity. Sarah was flipping pancakes while a baby cooed from a basket by the fireplace. 3 ranch hands sat at the long table, shoveling food into their mouths with the single-minded dedication of men who worked hard for a living. Caleb stood by the stove, pouring coffee. He'd shaved, she noticed, and changed into a clean shirt that stretched across his shoulders in a way that made her mouth go dry. When he looked up and saw her, something warm flickered in those gray eyes. "Morning. Sleep better after a while?" "I did. Thank you." Eleanor felt heat rise in her cheeks. "I'm sorry you had to." "Don't apologize. Ready to meet the rest of the crew?" The 3 men at the table stood as one, hats in hands. They were young, none older than 25, with open, honest faces. "This is Tom, Luis, and Jack," Caleb said, pointing to each in turn. "They're good men, and they'll treat you with respect or answer to me. Boys, this is Miss Eleanor. She's going to be helping Sarah and cooking for us." "Pleasure to meet you, ma'am," Tom said, his voice carrying a soft Texas drawl. His eyes flickered to her bruised face for just a moment, before returning to meet her gaze directly. Acknowledgement without pity. "If you cook half as good as you look, we're in for a treat." "Tom," Caleb's voice held a warning note. "That was a compliment, boss. I'm being respectful. Respectfully shut up and finish your breakfast." Eleanor surprised herself by smiling. "It's all right. Thank you, Tom." The days fell into a rhythm. Eleanor woke early, helped Sarah with the baby, a sweet little girl named Rose, and prepared meals for the crew. The cooking was harder than she'd expected. Feeding 7 hungry men who worked from sunrise to sunset required quantities she'd never dealt with before. But Sarah was patient, teaching her tricks for stretching ingredients and flavoring dishes that made even simple beans and cornbread taste special. Caleb was everywhere and nowhere. He worked alongside his men, mending fences, moving cattle, breaking horses. But Eleanor felt his eyes on her constantly, watching, making sure she was all right. He never crowded her, never pushed for conversation she wasn't ready to give, but he was always there, a steady, solid presence that made her feel protected without feeling trapped. A week after her arrival, Eleanor was hanging laundry on the line behind the house when Luis came running up, his face tight with worry. "Miss Eleanor, boss needs you in the barn." Tom got kicked by that new mare. Eleanor's heart jumped into her throat. She dropped the laundry basket and ran. Tom was lying in the barn's center aisle, his face pale and twisted with pain. Caleb knelt beside him, his hands moving carefully over Tom's ribs. "How bad?" Eleanor asked, dropping to her knees on Tom's other side. "Couple cracked ribs, I think. Maybe worse." Caleb's voice was tight. "We need to bind him up tight and keep him still." "Sarah's with Rose, or I'd have her do it. But—" "I can do it," Eleanor said. She'd helped her mother nurse enough injuries on their farm to know the basics. "Get me cloth for binding, something he can bite on, and whiskey." Caleb's eyes met hers, surprised and approving. "Yes, ma'am." The next hour was difficult. Tom tried to stay stoic as Eleanor wrapped his ribs, but every movement made him gasp. She worked as gently as she could, her fingers steady despite her racing heart. Caleb held Tom's shoulders, keeping him still, his face a mask of concern for his young ranch hand. "You're doing great," Eleanor murmured to Tom. "Almost done. Just breathe through it." "You got good hands, Miss Eleanor," Tom managed between gasps. "Gentle." When it was finished, they moved Tom to a cot in the tack room and made him comfortable. Caleb sent Jack to town for the doctor, just to be sure, then walked Eleanor back to the house. "That was impressive," he said quietly. "Most women would have fainted." "I'm not most women." Eleanor surprised herself with the edge in her voice. Caleb's lips curved into what might have been a smile. "No, you're not. Where'd you learn to set ribs?" "My mother was the closest thing our town had to a nurse. She taught me a lot before she died." "How long ago did you lose her?" 2 years. Eleanor's throat tightened. That's when everything started to fall apart. Papa drank himself to death within 6 months. I had no money, no family. James seemed like salvation. I was so stupid. They'd reached the back porch. Caleb caught Eleanor's arm gently, turning her to face him. "You weren't stupid. You were desperate and alone, and he took advantage of that. That's on him, not you." Eleanor stared up at him, at this man who'd shown her more kindness in a week than her husband had in 3 months. His hand was still on her arm, warm through the fabric of her sleeve. She should step back. She should put distance between them. Instead, she found herself swaying closer. "Why are you so good to me?" she whispered. "Really?" Caleb's gray eyes darkened. His thumb moved on her arm, a small, unconscious caress. "Because when I look at you, I see a woman worth saving. Not because you're weak, you're one of the strongest people I've ever met, but because everyone deserves to be safe, to be valued. You deserve that, Eleanor." Something shifted in the air between them, becoming charged, electric. Eleanor's breath caught. Caleb's gaze dropped to her lips, and she felt heat flood through her body. But it wasn't fear. It was want, desire, things she'd thought James had beaten out of her forever. Caleb seemed to realize what he was doing and stepped back abruptly. I should check on the herd. Sarah probably needs help with dinner. He was gone before Eleanor could respond, leaving her standing on the porch with her heart racing and her body aching with a longing she didn't fully understand. That night, Eleanor lay in bed and faced the truth. She was falling for Caleb Thorne. It was foolish, dangerous even. She was technically still married, still running from a man who'd promised to kill her if she left. She had no right to think about a future with anyone, let alone a man who'd only taken her in out of pity. Except it wasn't pity. Eleanor knew what pity looked like, and what she saw in Caleb's eyes was something else entirely. Something that made her heart race and her skin warm. Something terrifying and wonderful at the same time. The doctor confirmed Tom's ribs were cracked but not broken, and would heal fine with rest. Tom spent the next week in the tack room, reading dime novels and complaining good-naturedly about being useless. Eleanor brought him meals and changed his bandages, and through their conversations, she learned more about Caleb. "Boss saved my life," Tom said one afternoon as Eleanor checked his ribs. "I was 17, running with a bad crowd in Denver. Got caught stealing, and the sheriff was gonna hang me. Caleb happened to be in town selling cattle. He paid my bail, brought me back here, gave me honest work." Tom's eyes were serious. He does that. Saves people. Marcus was a drunk he found passed out in an alley. Luis was running from a gang. Jack's paw beat him near to death, and Caleb stepped in. We're all broken pieces that he's put back together. Eleanor's hands stilled on the bandage. He has a savior complex. Maybe. Or maybe he's just a good man who remembers what it's like to need help. His family lost their ranch when he was a kid. His pa died in debt. His ma took sick, and he and Rebecca ended up on the streets for a while. He knows what rock bottom looks like. He never told me that. Boss doesn't talk about himself much. But I'm telling you so you understand. He's not helping you because he pities you. He's helping you because he remembers what it feels like to be desperate. And he swore he'd never let another person suffer that way if he could prevent it. Eleanor finished wrapping Tom's ribs in silence, her mind spinning. Caleb wasn't some wealthy rancher playing at charity. He'd clawed his way up from nothing and built an empire through sheer determination. And now he was using that empire to give others the second chances he'd needed. How was she supposed to protect her heart against a man like that? 2 weeks after Eleanor's arrival, a storm rolled in from the north. One of those early autumn tempests that turn the sky black and the wind into a living thing. Sarah sent Eleanor to the barn to help Caleb and the hands secure the animals before the worst hit. The barn was chaos. Horses whinnied and stamped in their stalls, sensing the approaching storm. Chickens flapped and squawked in their coop. Caleb moved through it all with calm efficiency, his voice low and soothing as he checked latches and reinforced doors. "Eleanor, help me with the loft hatch," he called. "It's not secured properly, and if the wind gets under it, it'll rip right off." They climbed the ladder to the loft together. The space was fragrant with hay and dust, dim in the strange greenish light that preceded the storm. The hatch was indeed loose, banging against its frame as the wind picked up. Caleb grabbed one side, while Eleanor took the other. They wrestled it into place, fighting the gusts that tried to tear it from their hands. Caleb's muscles strained against his shirt as he held the heavy wood, and Eleanor found herself distracted by the sheer strength of him, the way his body moved with such controlled power. "Got it," Caleb grunted, sliding the bolt home. "That should." The storm hit like a freight train. One moment the air was tense and waiting. The next it was screaming. Rain hammered the barn roof with fists of fury. Thunder cracked so loud, Eleanor's ears rang. Lightning turned the world white, then plunged it back into darkness. And Eleanor, who thought she'd move past her fears, found herself frozen in terror. Her mind wasn't in the barn anymore. She was back in James's house, in the small room where he locked her when he was angry. Thunder had always preceded his worst rages. Something about the noise set him off. She could see his shadow in the doorway, could smell the whiskey on his breath, could feel the first blow landing. "Eleanor, Eleanor, look at me!" Caleb's voice cut through the panic. His hands were on her shoulders, steady and warm, grounding her in the present. "You're safe. Do you hear me? You're safe. It's just a storm." But Eleanor couldn't breathe. Her chest was too tight, her heart beating too fast. The thunder cracked again, and she whimpered, a sound she hated, a sound that meant weakness. "Breathe with me," Caleb said, pulling her against his chest. "In through your nose, out through your mouth. Match my breathing." She felt his chest rise and fall, felt the steady thump of his heart beneath her cheek. Gradually, incrementally, her own breathing began to match his. The panic started to recede, like a tide pulling back from shore. "That's it," Caleb murmured, his hand moving in slow circles on her back. "You're doing great. Just keep breathing." Eleanor didn't know how long they stood there, wrapped together in the loft, while the storm raged outside. Could have been minutes or hours. All she knew was that Caleb held her like she was something precious, his touch gentle, despite the strength she could feel coiled in his muscles. "I'm sorry," she finally whispered. "I thought I was past this. I thought I was stronger." "You are strong." Caleb's voice was fierce. "Panic isn't weakness, Eleanor. It's your body trying to protect you from a threat it remembers. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you human." Eleanor pulled back enough to look up at him. In the dim light filtering through the cracks in the barn walls, his face was all sharp angles and shadows. His gray eyes held something intense, something that made her breath catch for entirely different reasons. "Caleb," she whispered, not even sure what she was asking for. His hand came up to cup her cheek, his thumb brushing just below her eye where the bruises had finally faded to yellow-green. "Tell me to stop, and I will. Tell me you don't want this, and I'll walk away right now." "I don't want you to stop," Eleanor breathed. God, I don't know what I want, but it's not for you to leave." Caleb's expression softened. "I'm not going anywhere, not unless you tell me to." He bent his head slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. When his lips touched hers, it was gentle, a question, not a demand. Eleanor's eyes fluttered closed. This kiss was nothing like the punishing, claiming kisses James had forced on her. This was soft, exploratory, asking for permission with every movement. Eleanor kissed him back tentatively, her hands coming up to rest on his chest. She could feel his heart racing beneath her palms, as fast as her own. When Caleb's arms tightened around her, she didn't feel trapped. She felt protected. He pulled back after a moment, resting his forehead against hers. "Was that okay?" Eleanor let out a shaky laugh. "You're asking if that was okay? Caleb, that was..." She searched for words. "That was the first time I've been kissed and didn't want to run away after." Pain flickered across his face. "He hurt you in every way, didn't he?" "Yes." There was no point in lying. But you're not him. You're nothing like him. I'll never hurt you. Caleb's voice was low and fierce. I swear to God, Eleanor, I'll die before I hurt you. Thunder cracked overhead. But this time, Eleanor didn't flinch. She was too focused on the man in front of her, this unexpected savior who'd somehow become so much more. I believe you, she said, and meant it. They stayed in the loft until the storm passed, talking quietly about their pasts, their fears, their hopes. Caleb told her about Rebecca, about finding her too late, about the rage and guilt that had driven him for years afterward. Eleanor told him about her mother's death, her father's descent into alcoholism, the desperation that had driven her into James's arms. I should have known, Eleanor said. There were signs. The way he talked about his mother, like she was property. The way he gripped my arm too tight when we were courting, leaving bruises. But I was so focused on survival, on having a home and food, that I ignored all of it. You can't blame yourself for believing what he wanted you to believe. Men like that, they're good at hiding their true nature until it's too late. Caleb's jaw tightened. I should ride to Cheyenne and make sure he never hurts anyone again. No, Eleanor grabbed his arm. That's exactly what I don't want. I don't want you risking yourself for me. I don't want you becoming a killer because of what he did. He deserves. I don't care what he deserves. I care about you. The words tumbled out before Eleanor could stop them, raw and honest. I care about you staying safe and good, not becoming like him. Caleb stared at her, something vulnerable flickering in his eyes. You care about me. Yes. Eleanor felt heat rise in her cheeks. Is that so surprising? A little. Most people who meet me think I'm intimidating. You are intimidating. You're also kind and patient, and you make me feel safe for the first time in months. Eleanor took a shaky breath. I know I have no right to feel this way. I'm still technically married, still being hunted by a man who wants to hurt me. But I can't help how I feel about you. Caleb's hand came up to tangle in her hair, tilting her face up to his. Eleanor, I've been fighting this since the moment I saw you in Henderson's store. You were so small and scared, but there was fire in your eyes. You weren't broken, even though someone had tried their damnedest to break you. I wanted to protect you, yes, but I also wanted to know you, to see what you'd become when you were safe enough to bloom. And what have I become? A woman I'm falling for, hard and fast. His thumb traced her lower lip. A woman I want to keep, if she'll have me. Eleanor's breath caught. Caleb, I know it's too soon. I know you need time. I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give. I'm just telling you the truth. I want you, Eleanor. Not just in my bed, though God knows I want that too. I want you in my life, my home, my future. I want to wake up every morning and see your face. I want to teach you to ride and shoot and defend yourself. I want to give you the life you deserve, safe, respected, cherished. Tears spilled down Eleanor's cheeks. I don't know if I can be what you need. James broke something in me. I'm not sure I know how to be with a man without fear. Then we'll figure it out together. Caleb wiped her tears with his thumbs. We'll go as slow as you need. If all you ever want is friendship, I'll take it. If you want more someday, I'll be here. I'm not going anywhere, Eleanor. You're stuck with me. Together, Eleanor whispered, testing the word. Together, Caleb agreed. The kiss this time was deeper, more confident. Eleanor poured into it all the longing she'd been holding back, all the hope that maybe, just maybe, she could have a future that didn't involve fear and pain. Caleb responded with a passion that was tightly leashed, controlled. He wanted her. She could feel it in the tension of his body, but he held himself back, letting her set the pace. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, the storm had passed. Sunlight streamed through the cracks in the barn walls, painting everything gold. "We should get back to the house," Caleb said reluctantly. "Sarah will worry." But as they climbed down from the loft, hand in hand, Eleanor felt lighter than she had in years. Maybe it was too soon. Maybe she was being foolish. But for the first time since her mother died, she felt like she might actually have a future worth living. The next few weeks were a study in tension and tenderness. Caleb was true to his word. He never pushed, never demanded. But the awareness between them was constant, crackling in the air like electricity before a storm. Every time their hands brushed, every time their eyes met across the dinner table, Eleanor felt that pull, wanting something she wasn't quite ready to name. Caleb started teaching her to ride. His patience was infinite as Eleanor struggled to control the gentle mare he'd chosen for her. He showed her how to sit properly, how to use her legs to guide the horse, how to stay balanced. His hands on her waist as he helped her mount sent heat flooding through her body. His voice, low and encouraging, made her want to try harder, be braver. "You're a natural," he said one afternoon after she'd managed to trot around the corral without bouncing too badly. His eyes were warm with pride. "Another week and you'll be ready to ride out on the range with me." "I'd like that," Eleanor said, and she meant it. The ranch was becoming home in a way nowhere else ever had. She loved the wide-open spaces, the sound of the wind through the grass, the smell of sage and cattle and leather. She loved the rhythm of the days, the satisfaction of preparing meals that the men devoured with appreciation. Most of all, she loved watching Caleb move through his world with such confidence and competence. Marcus approached her one evening as she was washing dishes. The foreman was a quiet man, tall and thin, with prematurely gray hair and eyes that saw everything. "Got something to tell you, Miss Eleanor," he said, his voice low. "Man came by the southern border today, railroad clerk type, was asking about a woman matching your description." Eleanor's hands froze in the dishwater. "James." Didn't give a name, but Caleb sent him packing. Made it clear no one of that description was here, and he wasn't welcome to search. Man didn't like it, but he left. Marcus paused. "He'll be back, though. Men like that don't give up easy." "I should leave." Eleanor's voice was hollow. "I'm putting all of you in danger. Now hold on. That's not what I'm saying." Marcus's lined face was kind. "I'm saying you need to be prepared. Learn to shoot. Learn to defend yourself. And know that we're all standing between you and him. Caleb won't let anything happen to you, but it's better if you can protect yourself too." Eleanor nodded slowly. "Will you teach me?" "Caleb will. I already mentioned it to him, and he's planning to start tomorrow." The shooting lessons became Eleanor's favorite part of the day. Caleb was patient, showing her how to hold the rifle, how to aim, how to control her breathing before she pulled the trigger. But more than that, each lesson was an excuse to be close to him. His body pressed against her back as he adjusted her stance, his breath warm on her neck as he murmured instructions, his hands covering hers on the gun. "You're a decent shot," he said after she'd hit the target 3 times in a row. "Better than Tom when I started teaching him." "Don't tell Tom that. He'll be insufferable." Caleb laughed, a sound Eleanor had come to treasure. He didn't laugh often, but when he did, it transformed his face from harsh to beautiful. "I won't. But Eleanor, I'm serious. If James comes here, if he tries to take you, I need to know you can defend yourself. I need to know that even if I'm not there, you'll fight." Eleanor lowered the rifle and turned to face him. "I'll fight. I'm not the same woman I was when I arrived here. You've given me something to fight for." "What's that?" "A life worth living. Hope. Maybe even," she hesitated, then pushed forward, "maybe even love." Caleb's eyes darkened. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and cupped her face in his hands. "Eleanor, I know it's crazy. I know I'm still married, still broken in a lot of ways. But I can't help how I feel about you, Caleb. You've been patient and kind, and you've never once made me feel like I owe you anything. You've just been you, and that's been more than enough." "You're not broken," Caleb said fiercely. "You're healing, which is different. And for what it's worth, I'm falling in love with you too. Have been since that first day in Henderson's store." Eleanor's heart soared. "Really? Really? I tried not to, told myself you needed time, that I shouldn't push. But Eleanor, when I look at you, I see my future. I see a woman strong enough to survive hell and still choose kindness. I see someone worth fighting for, worth waiting for, worth everything." This kiss was different from the others, deeper, more desperate. Eleanor wrapped her arms around Caleb's neck and held on as if he were the only solid thing in a world that wouldn't stop spinning. His arms banded around her waist, lifting her slightly, and she could feel the controlled strength in his body, the way he held himself back, even as he kissed her like she was air and he was drowning. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Caleb rested his forehead against hers. "We need to do this right," he said. "I won't have people calling you a whore or saying you ran from one man's bed to another's. We need to end your marriage to James legally. Make sure you're free." "That could take months," Eleanor protested, "and he'll never agree to a divorce." "Then we'll find another way. Maybe we can prove abandonment or cruelty. But Eleanor, I want to marry you. I want to do it right, with everyone knowing you're mine and I'm yours. I want our children to be born legitimate, our life together to be built on a solid foundation." Eleanor's breath caught. "Children?" Caleb's cheeks actually colored. "If you want them, I know we haven't talked about. I'm getting ahead of myself." "I want them." Eleanor's voice was soft, but certain. "I want a life with you, Caleb. Children, this ranch, growing old together. I want all of it." "Then that's what we'll have. I promise you, Eleanor. Somehow we'll make this right." But fate, it seemed, had other plans. James arrived 3 days later. Eleanor was in the kitchen, up to her elbows in bread dough, when she heard the horses. She looked out the window and felt her blood turn to ice. James sat astride a rented horse, flanked by 2 men she didn't recognize. They all wore guns. "Sarah, take Rose and go upstairs," Eleanor said quietly. "Lock the door and don't come out until someone tells you it's safe." "Eleanor, now." Sarah grabbed the baby and hurried upstairs. Eleanor wiped her hands on her apron and walked out onto the porch, her head high. She would not cower. Not anymore. James had changed. He was thinner, his face haggard with drink and rage. When he saw her, his expression twisted into something ugly. "There you are, you little bitch. Did you really think you could run from me?" "I'm not running anymore." Eleanor's voice was steady. "You have no power over me, James." "The hell I don't. You're my wife. You belong to me." James swung down from his horse. "And you're coming back with me right now." "No, I'm not." James pulled his gun. I don't remember giving you a choice. Eleanor heard footsteps behind her. Caleb, Marcus, and the other hands emerging from the barn and bunkhouse. They moved with the casual confidence of men who knew how to handle trouble, forming a loose line between Eleanor and James. I think the lady made herself clear, Caleb said, his voice deadly calm. She's not going anywhere with you. James's eyes narrowed as he took in Caleb's size, the gun at his hip, the steel in his gaze. Who the hell are you? Caleb Thorne. I own this ranch, and Eleanor works for me. She's under my protection. Huh, protection, James laughed, an ugly sound. Is that what we're calling it? Looks to me like she's warming your bed, you ranch trash. Caleb's jaw tightened, but his voice remained level. Watch your mouth, and lower your gun before someone gets hurt. The only person getting hurt today is her, once I get her home. James took a step forward. You've got no right to keep a man from his wife. And you've got no right to beat a woman until she runs from you, Caleb shot back. I've seen what you did to her, Blackwood. The bruises, the scars, the fear in her eyes. You're lucky I don't put a bullet in you right now. James's face purpled. Big talk from a man who's stealing another's property. In case you haven't noticed, I've got the law on my side. She's legally my wife, and I can do what I want with her. Not in Wyoming territory, you can't. Out here, we judge a man by his actions, and yours are those of a coward. Now turn around and ride out of here before I make you leave. You threatening me? James raised his gun, pointing it at Caleb. I'll have you arrested for kidnapping. Lower your weapon, Marcus said quietly, his own rifle appearing in his hands. Around the yard, the other hands had armed themselves. You're outnumbered and outgunned. Best thing you can do is ride away. For a moment, Eleanor thought James might actually do it. Then she saw the calculation in his eyes, the fury that said he'd rather die than lose. If I can't have her, no one can, James snarled, swinging his gun toward Eleanor. Everything happened at once. Caleb lunged forward with a roar. Marcus fired, his shot hitting one of James's companions in the shoulder. Eleanor dove for the porch railing, her hand closing around the rifle Caleb had started making her keep there. James's gun went off. The bullet whined past Eleanor's head, so close she felt the heat of it. She rolled, brought her rifle up, and did what Caleb had taught her, controlled her breathing, aimed for center mass, and pulled the trigger. The kick nearly knocked her flat. When she looked up, James was on the ground, clutching his leg, his gun in the dirt 3 feet away. Blood spread through his pants, dark and fast. You shot me! James's voice was high with shock. You actually shot me. Should have aimed higher, Eleanor said, surprised by how steady her voice was. Her hands were shaking, her heart racing, but inside she felt free. But Caleb's been teaching me mercy along with shooting. Caleb was at her side in an instant, pulling her up, his hands moving over her frantically. Are you hit? Did he hurt you? I'm fine. I'm fine. Eleanor let herself lean into him, just for a moment. Is it over? It's over. Caleb held her tight, his face buried in her hair. Christ, Eleanor, when I saw him point that gun at you. But he didn't hit me, and I hit him. Eleanor pulled back to look at Caleb. I stood up for myself. I fought back. Pride shone in Caleb's eyes. You did. You were magnificent. Marcus and the hands had rounded up James and his companions. James was still whimpering about his leg, though the wound was clearly not life-threatening. Eleanor's bullet had gone through the meat of his thigh, missing bone and arteries. What you want to do with him? Marcus asked. Caleb looked at Eleanor. Your choice. Eleanor studied the man who'd terrorized her for months. He looked small now, pathetic, writhing in the dirt and crying. She felt nothing. No fear, no anger, not even satisfaction. Just a cold, clear certainty. Take him to town. Tell the sheriff what happened. That he came here with armed men to kidnap me against my will. That he fired first. Show them his history of violence. Get him put away where he can't hurt anyone else. Eleanor's voice was iron. And while you're there, file divorce papers. Abandonment, cruelty, attempted murder. I want to be free of him legally, completely, forever. Consider it done, Marcus said. They loaded James and his companions into a wagon. As Marcus drove away, James tried one last time. You'll regret this. You hear me? You'll regret crossing me. I don't want this anymore, Eleanor called back, surprising herself with the truth of it. She didn't want the anger, the fear, the pain. She was done carrying all of it. James's reply was lost as the wagon rolled out of sight. Eleanor stood there, watching him disappear, and felt the last chains around her heart break free. Caleb's arm came around her shoulders. You all right? You know what? I am. Eleanor turned to face him, a smile breaking across her face. I'm more than all right. I'm free. Free? Caleb repeated, his eyes searching hers. What does that mean for us? It means, Eleanor took a deep breath. It means when the divorce is final, when I'm legally free, I want to marry you, if you'll still have me. Caleb's answer was to pull her into his arms and kiss her until her toes curled and her heart sang. When he finally pulled back, both of them breathing hard, his gray eyes were molten silver. I'll have you, he said roughly. I'll have you and hold you and cherish you for the rest of my life. I'll give you everything you've ever wanted, Eleanor. Safety, respect, love. I'll give you my name, my home, my heart. I'll give you children if you want them, or a child-free life if you prefer. I'll give you space when you need it, and hold you close when you don't. I'll give you everything I have and everything I am, if you'll just say yes. Yes, Eleanor breathed. Yes to all of it. Yes to you. They stood there on the porch, wrapped in each other's arms, while the sun set over the ranch, painting everything gold and red. In the distance, cattle lowed peacefully. Nearby, Sarah emerged from the house with Rose, saw them together, and smiled. I love you, Caleb said, the words rough with emotion. God, Eleanor, I love you so much it scares me. I love you too. Eleanor pressed her hand over his heart, feeling it thunder beneath her palm. You saved me, Caleb. Not just from James, but from giving up on myself. You showed me I was worth saving. You saved yourself, Caleb corrected gently. I just gave you a safe place to heal. The strength was always yours. Eleanor smiled through happy tears. Then let's make a deal. I'll stop arguing about who saved who, and you'll just kiss me again. Best deal I've ever made, Caleb said, and suited action to words. The divorce took 3 months. 3 months of waiting, of gathering evidence, of testimonies from Eleanor and Sarah, and even Henderson about her condition when she'd fled James. It helped that James, facing charges of attempted murder and assault, decided cooperation might get him a lighter sentence. The divorce was granted on grounds of extreme cruelty and abandonment. On a crisp December morning, with snow dusting the peaks of the distant mountains, Eleanor Louise Sheffield became Eleanor Louise Thorne. The ceremony was simple, held in the parlor of Three Rivers Ranch, with just Sarah, Marcus, and the ranch hands present. Eleanor wore a simple blue dress that Sarah had helped her make. Caleb wore his best suit and looked so handsome that Eleanor's breath caught. The circuit preacher who rode through once a month performed the ceremony. When he got to the vows, Caleb took Eleanor's hands and spoke from the heart. "I promise to protect you, but never cage you, to support you, but never diminish you, to love you in good times and bad, in sickness and health, for as long as we both live. You're my partner, Eleanor, my equal, my love, and I swear I'll spend every day of my life proving you made the right choice." Eleanor's voice shook as she replied, "I promise to stand beside you, not behind you, to love you fiercely, honestly, completely, to build a life with you based on trust and respect and laughter. You gave me back myself, Caleb. Now I'm giving myself to you freely, joyfully, forever." When the preacher declared them husband and wife, Caleb kissed her like she was the air he breathed. The hands whooped and hollered, Sarah cried happy tears, and Eleanor felt something settle in her chest, a bone-deep certainty that this was right, that she was exactly where she belonged. That night, Caleb carried Eleanor over the threshold of their bedroom, his bedroom, now theirs together. He set her down gently, his hands shaking slightly. "We can wait," he said. "If you're not ready." "I'm ready," Eleanor interrupted. "I want this, Caleb. I want you. If anything hurts, if you need me to stop." Eleanor pressed her fingers to his lips. "I know you won't hurt me. I trust you completely." What followed was tender, careful, sometimes awkward, as they learned each other's bodies. Caleb kept his promise. He was patient, constantly checking in, making sure Eleanor was comfortable. When she tensed at a particular touch, he backed off immediately. When she finally cried out in pleasure rather than pain, his expression was triumphant. Afterwards, they lay tangled together, Eleanor's head on Caleb's chest, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her bare shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For showing me what this is supposed to be like, for making me feel cherished instead of used." Caleb pressed a kiss to her forehead. "Thank you for trusting me, for taking a chance on a broken man with a savior complex." Eleanor laughed. "We're both a little broken. Maybe that's why we fit." "Or maybe we're not broken at all," Caleb suggested. "Maybe we're just two people who've survived hell and come out stronger for it." "Together," Eleanor said, testing that word again. "Together," Caleb agreed. Time passed. Winter melted into spring. Spring warmed into summer. Eleanor bloomed like the wildflowers that covered the rangeland. She learned to ride well enough to help with the cattle. She became an expert shot, though she hoped she'd never have to use that skill again. She and Sarah became genuine friends, laughing together over laundry and trading cooking secrets. One evening in late summer, Eleanor stood on the porch, watching the sunset. Caleb came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, and she leaned back against his chest. "Happy?" he murmured against her hair. Deliriously, Eleanor turned in his arms to face him. Although, Eleanor took his hand and pressed it to her still flat stomach. "We might need to add another bedroom to the house." Caleb's eyes went wide. "You're pregnant. About 2 months along, Sarah thinks." A grin split Caleb's face, pure, uncomplicated joy. He picked Eleanor up and spun her around, making her laugh and cling to his shoulders. "We're having a baby." "Yes, we are." Eleanor cupped his face when he set her down. "Are you happy?" Happy doesn't begin to cover it. Caleb's eyes were suspiciously bright. "Eleanor, you've given me everything. A home that's truly a home. Love, purpose, and now a child? I don't deserve you." "Yes, you do." Eleanor stretched up to kiss him. "You deserve every good thing, Caleb Thorne, and I plan to spend the rest of my life making sure you know it. As the sun set over Three Rivers Ranch, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Caleb and Eleanor stood together, dreaming of the future. They'd both survived hell to find each other. They'd both been broken and had healed together. And now they'd build something new. A family, a legacy, a love that would last generations. Eleanor thought of that terrified woman who'd stood in Henderson's store 6 months ago, desperate enough to trade her mother's locket for a meal. That woman seemed like a stranger now. She'd been so small, so scared, so certain she had nothing left to offer the world. But Caleb had seen something different. He'd seen strength, potential, a woman worth saving. And in saving her, he'd saved himself too. Because that's what love did. It transformed, healed, made whole. "What are you thinking about?" Caleb asked, his arms tightening around her. Eleanor smiled. That sometimes the worst moments of our lives lead us to the best ones. If I hadn't been desperate enough to walk into that store, if you hadn't been there at exactly that moment, we never would have found each other. Fate, Caleb said. Or luck. Or grace. Caleb kissed her temple. Whatever it was, I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for you. I love you, Eleanor said simply. I love you too. Caleb's hand moved to rest on her stomach, where their child grew. Both of you. They stood there as darkness fell, wrapped in each other and in the life they'd built together. Behind them, the ranch house glowed with lamplight, warm, welcoming, safe. Ahead of them stretched years of joy and challenge, of children and grandchildren, of a love that would weave itself into the very fabric of Three Rivers Ranch. Eleanor had come to Caleb Thorne with nothing but the clothes on her back and a heart full of scars. He'd given her everything: safety, respect, purpose, love. But more than that, he'd shown her she was worth saving, worth cherishing, worth everything. And that, Eleanor thought as Caleb led her inside, was the greatest gift of all. Several months later, on a cold February morning, Eleanor gave birth to a daughter. She had Caleb's gray eyes and Eleanor's dark hair, and when she wrapped her tiny hand around her father's finger, the big, strong rancher, who'd faced down rustlers and bandits without flinching, broke down and cried. "What should we name her?" Eleanor asked, exhausted but glowing with happiness. Caleb looked at his wife, then at his daughter, then back again. "Rebecca, after my sister, if that's all right with you." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "It's perfect. Rebecca Thorne, a new beginning." "A new beginning," Caleb echoed, cradling his daughter close. "For all of us." And in the years that followed, Three Rivers Ranch would see 2 more children, a son they named Samuel and another daughter named Rose. The ranch would grow and prosper. Caleb and Eleanor would become pillars of their community, known for their generosity and the second chances they gave to people who needed them. They'd take in strays, both human and animal, and build a family that extended far beyond blood. But that first night, holding their newborn daughter while Eleanor slept peacefully nearby, Caleb Thorne made a promise. He promised to raise his children to be strong and kind, to respect women and value character over wealth, to stand up for those who couldn't stand up for themselves. He promised to love his wife with everything he had, every single day, for as long as they both lived. And he kept that promise for 53 more years, until the day he died at 88, with Eleanor's hand in his and his great-grandchildren playing in the yard outside. but that's a story for another time. For now, on this cold February morning, there was just a man, his wife, and their newborn daughter. A family built on love, forged in survival, and strengthened by the courage to hope for better days. Together, always together. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're enjoying this tale from. Are you listening at home, during your commute, or perhaps while working? Please subscribe to the From Wild West channel and share your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think of Eleanor and Caleb's journey? Did their story touch your heart the way it touched mine? Your feedback means the world to us, and it helps me create more stories that resonate with you. Until next time, may you find your own Three Rivers Ranch, a place of safety, love, and new beginnings.